Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going back to the year 1992. I was only 6 years old at the time. Some of you may have been younger, some of you may have been older. But for video game enthusiasts, it was an incredible year and there were some amazing titles that got released. So I want to look at what I think are the top 10 releases from that year. Now, as always, some of you may disagree with my list, some of you may think I'm being stupid, some of you may think I'm completely correct. Regardless, I want to hear what you think of my list and what you think is either the top 10 or your favourite game from 1992. Any console, any game is on the table here, so said, let me know in the comments. If you really think I deserve it, please leave a like and comment, it really helps the channel grow, and also make sure you join the podcast and also look at the $1 a month Patreon, and the link is in the description below. As I said at the beginning, this channel grows through those likes and those comments, and let's get this discussion going because I really do laugh at some of the comments that come through. They do give me a good chuckle. Alright, let's get into it, shall we? The top 10 games of 1992. At number 10, it's Bucky O'Hare on the NES. Yes, this is the only NES game you're going to see on this list. And why Bucky O'Hare? Well, it's like Konami's Mega Man. That's basically the way I see it, because it's hard as goddamn balls. It is incredibly difficult. It's like they looked at Contra and went, right, let's make a really tight, hard game, but add a bunny to it. And I loved Bucky O'Hare growing up, but I actually didn't play this until I started doing the podcast, and I think it was on the show about over a year ago. But this is a really hard game. Get rid of all the cartoony aesthetics. This is incredibly difficult. Now, instead of just controlling Bucky, you can go through his whole crew, and every one of them has their own ability. So Bucky has really good jumping, Deadeye has the triple shot, Jenny has a charged magic attack, Willy has a powerful blaster, and Blinky, who is the god in this game, has hovering. Jesus, do you need Blinky, and his hitbox is really tiny as well. They also have their own special meter, which means you can't just constantly hover throughout the whole game, because that's cheating. For the time, it looked really good, like this is an end-of-console game for the NES, so Konami knew exactly what they were doing at this point, and it looks fantastic. The sprites look good, the colours were good, had smooth animations, it was just really fucking hard. I swear to God. It had auto-scrolling escape sequences, you had a roller coaster bit, you had really hard bosses where you're fighting in a little hover thing, you had one of the hardest bosses at gaming, which was the Toad escape craft, you had a boss where you're trying to escape a horizontal shaft, and it's not a penis, it's just a shaft, but the game was just bloody hard. But luckily, you had unlimited continues, which thank God you did, because there's no way I'm going to do it. Although the ice levels suck balls. Suck balls. But what I will say about it, although sometimes you can think it's a bit unfair, it controlled really well. And there was no times when I thought this game screwed me over because of its fault, although, again, some of it was a bit unfair. But it was more my fault. And once I figured out how to do it, it was me. It was I'm the issue, and I'm the one who needs to get better. Music's good as well. I said, it's Konami. Come on. Konami know exactly what they're doing with tunes, and it's up there with Castlevania and Contra tracks. But it actually feels like where it's a licensed product, usually it can be rushed out in a pile of dog shit, they actually put effort into it and went, yeah, we're going to actually give this more care. It's just a shame we never got any other Bucky O'Hare games in the future. In at number 9, Mario Kart. Yeah, Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. This is so low. Well, it's better than Bucky O'Hare, and I think nostalgia is going to play a lot in all this. But I can't put it any higher because I only used to play this with my friend Rob growing up because he had a Super Nintendo and I didn't. And let's be honest, the influence this game had cannot be understated because kart races are all the thing, don't we know? And Mario Kart World and the new Sonic game kind of emphasise that. By all means, this shouldn't have worked because Bowser hates Mario, but why not let's go go-karting with him and his friends for a fun time and have a nice little race with him trying to rip his head off. The old thing about Mario Kart was that you were going around a track, but there were loads of little items you could pick up and throw at your enemies. It was full of hazards and shortcut. And also, it had bloody good graphics. The Mode 7 graphics, which everyone seemed to literally whip their penis out about, that was what everyone was blowing because it allowed the track to rotate around the character and gave that illusion of 3D. And again, for 1982, it was godforsaking awesome. The handling feels great once you get it. Okay, this isn't Mario Kart 64, which feels absolutely fantastic. This takes some getting used to with the handling. I am honest about that. It takes a long time. Drifting is nowhere near as good. Again, once you know what you're doing, and that sounds a bit of a terrible thing to say when it comes to these lists, it becomes an absolute gem. Again, I liked using the different types of karts. Everyone was a little bit different. I liked using Koopa Trooper. Some people might like Bowser because they want the speed. I consider, when you look at all the Mario Karts that have been out, this is still the most technical out the lot. and one little mistake and you're bye-bye, and you're not playing anymore. But some of the best maps also started here when you look at Rainbow Road, for example, Donut Plains, Bowser's Castle, Cooper's Beach. They all started from here. And unlike the N64 versions and onwards, they're not over the top, they're just quite simple, but it also meant that the tracks were quite short and you did more laps. The game itself wasn't overpowered with some of its items it had. You just had the mushroom shells, bananas, stars and lightning, and the coin item which made you go faster. End of the day, when you compare it to other Mario Karts, this one just felt more of a game of skill. And it had also the battle mode, which, yes, I know some people are going to rant and rave and say it's the best thing since sliced bread. The battle mode wasn't for me, okay? It wasn't for me. The N64 one was for me. Yes, oh my god, I just drew my PlayStation. Well, that was an accident waiting to happen. I shouldn't have been holding a pen. Sorry, side note, but that's how my brain works. At number 8, A Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Oh, this is going to anger some people. Some people are going to be like, what are you doing? Why is Link to the Past only at number 8? Because it is. Because it's my list. And come fight me. Come to Australia, come where I live, and I'll fight you. I'll fight you at dawn. Okay, I'm not actually advocating we fight, but let's fight, motherfuckers! Okay, either way, look. Link to the Past is a great Zelda game. It is good. I wouldn't put it in my top 5, alright? Okay, and again, nostalgia is a part of that, because I didn't grow up with A Link to the Past. I grew up with Link's Awakening, which I think is a better Zelda game, and Ocarina of Time, which I also think is a better Zelda game. And unfortunately, I didn't have that nostalgic ties to A Link to the Past. I can sit there and say it's a really good game, and it is, because that's why it's making the top 10. I'm just saying why it's not making the top 5, okay, before anyone shouts at me. A Link to the Past is an incredible adventure. You, as Link, have to go out in the middle of the night after your uncle buggers off and end up dying in Zelda's castle when you try and retrieve her, and then basically turns out into a world-saving adventure. You have to go through the light world and then eventually find the Master Sword, and with some shenanigans with a wizard, you go to the dark world, which is the darker version of the light world of Hyrule. Although the game gives no indication about the dark world, so as you start playing it, you're like, holy shit, this game is double the size I actually thought. The dungeons are great, have a perfect pace to them, and again, this usually set the tone for most Zelda games, where there's a theme, a puzzle, an item, a boss. That's pretty much how most Zelda games go from now on. Also with the collect the 3 MacGuffins and then do a big thing and then collect more MacGuffins before fighting the boss. So it kind of is an important game, not just the Super Nintendo, not just to gaming in 1992, but for the Zelda franchise in general. It brought us loads of items, it had storytelling without those long cutscenes. It's a really good game. Like, it still feels good to control and play, it feels tight and responsive, although I don't like using the sword. I've argued this in my previous video, go check it out, you should really go check that out. I prefer Link's Awakening sword, it's just a much easier one to swing. Okay, it just is. The music's great as well, apart from, as I've said in the previous video, when you come out of a house, you hear the main Zelda theme over and over again, and that can get on your tits after a while, and you're like, ah, okay, that's doing my head in. But compared to most games that might be on this list, it still holds up really well. You can play this game and have an absolute blast, whether it's your first time or your 20th time, and I'm some of you on this list are going to be saying, no, I've played this game 100 times, thank you very much, and it's the best game ever, you flubbing idiot. But yes, fine, argue that, that's why I'm just an idiot. I'm not bald, I'm a man with hair, I'm probably going bald, and I am losing my mind sometimes. At number 7, it's Contra 3, The Alien Wars. Yes, I consider Contra 3, The Alien Wars better than Link to the Past, because it's Konami doing Konami shit. It's hard, it's fast, it's frantic, oh my god. Now, similar to Link to the Past and many other Super Nintendo games that might appear on this list, I didn't ever play this growing up, because nobody definitely had Contra growing up, no one was Contra fans. So I played this as I was preparing for the podcast, and oh my god, it was amazing. I have it on my Super Nintendo Mini, I also have it on other forms of consoles, but they've got sick, but don't tell the FBI, and I've enjoyed it. I love the fact it's so frantic. I love the fact it gets a one-hit death, and you're like, oh, that's not good. But everything else dies in one hit apart from bosses. It's a game where it requires patience. It requires getting to know the enemy sequences, to getting to know what's around. The game controls are still so tight. They're still so responsive now, and they play so perfectly. When again, if you die, that's your fault. It's not the game's fault. It really is your fault because you absolutely ballsed up. Like, don't get me wrong, I think the better Contra is on the Mega Drive. I really do think Hardcore is a better game, because I don't like the Mode 7 levels. I think they're a waste in there. But when you look at the rest of the game, I love it. I love all the sprites, I love the fact there's explosions going on left, right, center. I hadn't played the original Contra, and I want to go back and play the original Contra because of this. There's parallax scrolling everywhere, which makes it feel so alive. It really felt like I was playing an arcade game at home, and it was very rare that that felt like that. There's a few games on this list list, which you could probably say, yes, have that feel, but this definitely felt pure arcade, pure rush. And then when you got all the different weapons, it's like, I just want the spread gun. That's all I want. Just give me the spread gun, let me have fun. And the fact is that you can have 2 weapons and switch between them, which was awesome. And the multiplayer mode as well. Like getting to play this co-op with a friend. Yes, I had a friend who came around and played it, playing the mini Super Nintendo. We didn't do that well because we were still learning the game, but it was just so much fun to do it. Although I would not want to do the one where the missiles are flying everywhere with 2-player. Oh my god, my brain might melt if that was the case. But either way, getting to finish Contra 3 with save states, I don't care, that's how I play my game, was a great challenge. It was great fun, and I would love to do it all again. And I probably will go back to Contra 3 to give it one big go, to see if I can actually do it without save stating. But it's a grueling game, and it's one of those which you need to get your reps in. And maybe that's why I use save states, because at the time, I didn't have that time to be able to get my reps in. But maybe when I retire, which is a long way away, I might be able to do that. At number 6, Street Fighter 2. Okay, yes, some of you are going, whoa, 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 Street Fighter 2 is only number 6? Okay, hear me out on this, right? I did play this a bit growing up because my cousin had Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo, so whenever we were around his house, we were able to play this game. The reason I'm only putting this at number 6 is because we all know, if you're a gaming person, there are better versions that came out for Street Fighter 2. This is base vanilla Street Fighter 2. After you've played Street Fighter 2 Turbo, you don't want to go back to base Street Fighter. It's just too slow. However, I still put it up there for nostalgia purposes and the greater impact that it had on the gaming community, because this game, when it came out into the arcades, to the home console, effectively killed the arcades. That was one of the reasons it died. It was amazing. I was never a big person into fighting games, and this introduced me into the genre. Like getting to use 8 different characters, although 7, because Ryu and Ken were exactly the same at this point, and getting to try all their different styles and go their different stages were just amazing. So I would always use Ryu, my brother would use Guile, although he couldn't use him properly because he didn't know how to use charge moves, but I could use Hadokens, was just superb. We had so many hours at my cousin Chris's house playing again and again and again, and constantly, because all we could do at the beginning was just a jump, kick, sweep, jump, kick, sweep. I don't care what anyone else says, that's what you all used to do at the beginning. And then you get to fight the extra characters, the Shadaloo Warriors, the Shadaloo Masters, I think they're called, and eventually get to M. Bison, who's an input reading bitch. God damn, I hated it. But the fact the control also had 6 buttons made it hell, because then you had a light, medium, heavy, punch and kick, which was like, woo, cool. That's a bit better than my Mega Drive, which only had 3 buttons. Stupid Mega Drive. But the reason why this game was so good is it looked pretty much arcade perfect. Now, that arcade machine in there was amazing, and the fact I was crap at using a stick and really good using a control meant I was able to play it at home and be very happy. You could also argue with friends, although I couldn't because none of them had it, only my cousin. So me and my brother and my cousin, we would argue about who was the best at Street Fighter 2, and it was definitely him because he was 8 years older, so he was always going to kick my ass. But either way, some of the songs from this game, some of the stages have been iconic. Like Ryu's stage has always been iconic. That music has always been fantastic. Although Sakura's still the greatest Street Fighter character of all time, I'll fight you again. I really will. But it had that idea of, yes, you can jump into it, but there's a really high skill level if you can get into it, if you become really good at the game and become master of it. Something which really the fighting genre has been known for many, many years. Street Fighter 2, reality, was a cultural event. Some will say Street Fighter 2 is the best game in 1992, and maybe if you were just looking from its cultural value and had it alone, I'd probably agree with you. I just know there are better versions of this, and that really hampers its position on this list. At number 5, Final Fantasy V. Yes, the first RPG in this list, and it's a Final Fantasy one. I do like my Final Fantasies, we've talked about this many times on the channel, and I'm going with the 5th one because that was the one at the time. Now, unlike Final Fantasy IV, which was a very dark tale, Final Fantasy V was a very light-hearted adventure, like really light-hearted in comparison to what we got in 6 next. Oh my god, 6 was as dark as anything. But this game introduced the job system, well, basically it improved the job system from Final Fantasy III. Now, Final Fantasy III's job system was quite basic and, trying to introduce the ideas of switching jobs and abilities, but Final Fantasy V perfected it, where you can mix and match those abilities from different jobs, and it encouraged that idea of experimentation. And there were some absolutely wild combinations such as Spellblade and Rapid Fire, dual-wielding monks, blue magic users, berserkers. It was crazy. And again, if you want to come play this, it's great. And because of the idea of because of the ability to play through constantly with different playthroughs each time, it introduced the idea of the 4-job fiesta, where people do that every year, which would absolutely scare the shit out of me. Research that if you want to know how good the 4-job fiesta is. Again, I'll poo myself playing that game. But the story itself, whilst not the strongest, is still that light-hearted approach. Again, the ending's bloody hard. My god, the final boss is hard as balls, but it has a likeable cast of Bart, Lena, Gwauf, however you pronounce his name, and Faris, and it has that great comedic timing, which is often missed in Final Fantasy games, and again, we had 6 next, and 6 was the darkest thing I've ever seen. It's ridiculous in the night. It also introduces to Gilgamesh, who becomes a bit of a comical character in this sense, but then has a more prominent role in other Final Fantasies, and also the music goddamn slaps. The battle on the Big Bridge is one of the best Final Fantasy tracks ever. Ever. Oh my god, even compared to 4 and 6, the legendary themes in this game are awesome. And also, it looks fucking good. Still looks good today. At number 4, Dragon Quest V. Like Final Fantasy, I love my Dragon Quests. Now, Dragon Quest V follows the single hero across 3 generations, something almost no other RPG events. As part of this adventure, you play as the same character, as a child, seeing the world in a wide-eyed, adventurous way, to a young adult facing loss and responsibility, and a parent raising your own children who later actually join your party. This structure really gave the game emotional weight that helps the character grows naturally as you age, which is great. And by the end, you feel like you, yourself, have lived an entire life with the characters that you've been playing with. There's also a choose your bride moment, because that really never happened in gaming, but the fact it affected the story meaningfully, not just like, oh, I pick you and this happened. It still creates conversations to this day about who the hero should have actually chosen, and then in the DS version they added a third choice. Why not add more women to the mix, because everyone loves that. You could actually recruit monsters, yes, years before Pokemon, and you start off with a bloody saber-toothed tiger, which is just goddamn amazing. And it's a bit weird when you start getting all like slimes and Drakis, you're like, huh, aren't I meant to kill them? And the reason why I put this higher than Final Fantasy V is because of the emotional weight of the story. I feel it has a lot more than it does in Final Fantasy V, and the fact that the party is made up of the family and the monsters you raised, it's like you're reclaiming that destiny you were torn from as a child. And when it comes to the ending, it's a really deep earned one. Again, Final Fantasy V does have good endings and good stories, but it's nowhere near as grabbing you by the balls as Dragon Quest V does. At number 3, TMNT4 Turtles in Time. Yes, this is one of the peak games of the 16-bit beat-em-up era. Oh my god, now this had been released in the arcades, and I've got many stories of playing with random people at the games console before you clip anything YouTube. And we used to play with random people, again, don't clip, and it was awesome. You just hope to get your turtle you wanted. I always wanted Leonardo, and you and 3 others would just go and fight all the way to the end. And where I played, it was a free games console machine, so you didn't worry about credits, you just kept going, it was great. But when it came to the consoles, they had to draw back a little bit, so the 4-player option was gone, however it was still 2-player. But in response, they added new levels and new bosses as well. You also had the snapping turtle Slash, often considered the 5th evil turtle. You also had one when you could throw foot soldiers at the shredder in like a 3D at the camera mode, which was quite cool. This was so good. You could jump into TMNT4 and just start mashing buttons, and it was so fun. The difficulty curve was quite fine, it wasn't too complex. It's actually just crowd control with often beat 'em ups, and it does it quite well. The Turtles' movement was pretty fluid, and how they beat the crap out of people worked pretty well too. They also look good, the game looked absolutely gorgeous, like the sprites of all the characters, the bosses, the turtles, the enemies, they looked awesome. And if you wanted to, you could change the colours of the turtles to their comic book variations, or I should say cartoon variations, from just one colour of green to all the different shades of green they are, which makes me think they're not actually brothers. They're just in the same pot. Someone could comment if that's the case or not. I've always believed they're actually not brothers, they're just 4 separate turtles that just got put together. But this is one of Konami's best games for the console, and it absolutely showed. The graphics were great, the sound was goddamn awesome. They actually used Leonardo's voice for the Big Apple, 3 AM. That first song from the first level is just so good. It improved on the arcade version in every way, apart from obviously the 4-player. It had better stages, better bosses, had the Mode 7 effects by being able to throw enemies towards the screen. It was great. Better balanced difficulty, tighter game. It was just the definitive edition of the game. Although, yes, we have tried to see it re-released with all 4 players, and it was absolutely gross. Ugh, it was disgusting. I love the levels you go to as well, apart from usually starting at the streets, what you might do, eventually you start going to prehistoric lands and pirate ships, which is just absolutely stupidity, but it felt so Turtles, it was awesome. And you got to fight the alien pizza people, which used to scare the crap out of me when I watched the cartoons. I used to love playing two-player. Me and my brother Phil would play as all the time. He would play as Raphael, I would play as Leonardo. But sadly, we didn't get to play it as much as we did because we didn't own the Super Nintendo. So really, you're relying on friends who had the game, and then we would try and live in their house and not ever leave and kick off and say, "Mummy, I'm not going home until we've played this game 26 times." Yeah, my poor mum. She had no chance. But it was one of the best beat-em-up games ever, and it's a shame me and my brother didn't own this because we'd probably be still playing it today. And number 2, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Now, many people may agree with this and say this should be as high, and many people may say no, Sonic 2 should be way down there. Look, as we've constantly said, nostalgia is a powerful drug, and Sonic 2 is definitely up there. I was a Sonic kid. I still think this game's better than Super Mario World. I really think that. I just think the Sonic formula is really cemented here compared to number 1. Number 1 was a bit of trial and error. Like, they realised, hang on, Sonic's meant for speed, but it's only the first zone that's able to do that. However, in the second game, that's all changed because there are many stages where you can really see how fast Sonic can go. Sonic is constantly hindered by moments that stop him, but that's not so much the case here. Yes, there are moments, but often the game wants you to get going. Chemical Plant Zone is a prime example of that. It does have its moments where it goes slow, but my god, when it gets fast, it nearly breaks the console. And there were so many different routes you could take. There was a high route, which was always the fun route, the speedy route, or the low route, which is often the more difficult route, and the route where if you were crap, that's where you're going to go. But it also meant you want to play again to get better and better and explore what the games were. Some of the zones in this game are absolutely legendary. Emerald Hill, incredible. Chemical Plant, my god. Aquatic Ruin, Casino Night, Sky Chase, my god. Some of the songs in this game are goddamn unreal, like Chemical Plant and Aquatic Zone are absolutely goddamn awesome. I still have Aquatic Zone and Chemical Plant on my running tracks. Weird, but I do, because they're so bloody good. It introduced Tails, which meant my brother had someone to play with because he was never being Sonic, that was always my responsibility. But if I needed someone to kill, I'd just send my brother in, because he'd be able to do that because Tails would just fly in. He couldn't fly properly like he would in Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles, but it was still fun. Also, we had the Spin Dash, which was Sonic's new ability, and that increased the pace dramatically, where Sonic could go down, go into a ball, spin, and attack. And he was off, and you can get your game going again, so no longer do you need to get your momentum going, you're off straight away. It also brought in those pseudo 3D special stages, the half pipe, which I still really like. Many people complain about them, but I like them, mainly because I can do them in one shot because I've played this game so many bloody times. Collect all 7 Chaos Emeralds from those special stages, and you get the access to Super Sonic, basically a Super Saiyan Hedgehog, because that's what it's influenced off, and Akira Toriyama weren't too happy about that. Yeah, but Super Sonic is iconic in gaming. He's basically the speed boots plus the invincibility, and he breaks the goddamn game. And if you're good enough, you can get in my Emerald Hill Zone. And if you're then good enough, you can then break the game, I mean literally break the game, because if you have over 50 rings, and if you jump through the end of the zone and then reactivate Super Sonic, well, the game's frozen because Super Sonic basically stands in the corner, walking, and you're fucked, and there's nothing you can do about it. Fan-goody-tastic. Start the game again. What a waste of time. Sorry, I do love Sonic 2. I know Sonic 3 is the better game. It is. Come on, let's all be honest. Sonic 3 plus Sonic & Knuckles is the superior Sonic game. It is incredible, and I've grown up enough to admit that. But Sonic 2 still has a special place in my heart, and it always will. God knows my children are going to one day play that. Now, number 1, which I think is the best game in 1992, is Streets of Rage 2 for the Sega Mega Drive. Yes, Streets of Rage 2. This was a game me and my brother used to play heavily because, well, we were Mega Drive kids, weren't we? We originally got Streets of Rage as one of the first games ever for our Mega Drive, so we played that. So when the second one came out, we were always going to play it as well. Although because we couldn't afford it, we just constantly rented it. And we probably rented it so much, we probably could have bought it. Either way, it built on what the first had and made it tenfold better. That's not a phrase, I've just made that up at the top of my mind. I'm not editing that, that's staying in. The game itself was incredible. It had a really good difficulty curve, like starting off quite basic, but really getting hard as the game ramped up and went into later levels. There was now 4 characters instead of 3 from the original Streets of Rage. You had Axel, who was pretty much the all-rounder, Blaze, who was very agile and was quite nimble, Max, who was the big grappling wrestler but really slow, and then Skate, who was really weak but really quick because he's on roller skates in these 90s and he's cool dude in a backwards cap on. The soundtrack is goddamn legendary. You'll hear multiple of this when you listen to my podcast because it's so bloody good. Just, so ahead of its time. My god. And adding in the big colourful sprites and the expressive animations, all the environments had great personality, like from the neon city streetlights, the arcades, subways, clubs. It was that perfect 90s Sega action. And the fact that the game still plays incredibly well today. You could release that right now and you'd still be giving it 10s and drooling over it. It is goddamn awesome. Yes, I know there was Streets of Rage 3, but Streets of Rage 2 is goddamn one of the best, if not the best game on the Mega Drive, and one of the best games ever goddamn made. That's just playing it on one player. Add the second player in, it's just as fun. My god, the co-op is so great. And you can also have friendly fire, which adds that tension and skill, so my brother will be like, you stay over there, I'll stay over here. Alright, you don't go anywhere near me unless we want to do cool team-up attacks, otherwise you're going to hit me. The bosses felt cool, like you had Jet, Shiva, Mr. X, and they're challenging, but they didn't feel cheap. But the whole package, when you look at the graphics, the characters, the bosses, the stages, the gameplay, when you put them all in there and everything's just kicking off and you're beating the shit out of everything, it just works so well. The game isn't too long, the game's not too short, it's not too difficult, it's not too easy. But at the same time, you're going to be beating up people dancing to this really good tune. And you just want to finish it and play it again and again and again and again. And that's it. That is my top 10 games of 1992. What did you all think? Do you think I got it right? Do you think I got it wrong? Are the games that should have been on this list and I have not put in there are the ones that definitely do not deserve to be on this list and need to take a step down? Or are the ones that need to go higher? Either way, let me know in the comments below. And as I said, if you really think I deserve it, please give this video a like. That is what gets it up there for everyone else's views. And until then, I'll see you all from the video in a few more days. My name's been Danny. Follow your dreams.